Rolling.
We're rolling. Steelhead Nation podcast number 2 in the
Part
two in the new shop. Welcome everybody. My name's Alex Hudjon.
And I am Adam McNamara.
And we are kicking this thing off in the morning. What time is it? 9:19. We're a little behind. Got our Steelhead Gear coffee.
Coffee instead of whiskey now.
We did episode 1 since we've been back. Came out last week. We're going to try to do this every Friday. If we got a fishing trip or something, we'll have to skip it. But lots going on. We're just talking about some new products that we're working on. Do we want to talk about it? We probably want to leave it. You want to talk about it?
They're in their infancy. They're little babies. Yeah. A gleam in your eye, if you will. But
twinkle.
But they're coming. Steelhead pants, quick dry pants. We're working on.
That's so hot. Oh.
But yeah, quick dry pants, which is really exciting. And then also custom sun shirts.
Yep.
Hooded and non-hooded variations. So that's going to be awesome. Much nicer than the rando stuff. It's going to be rad.
Yeah. Awesome.
Lots of features.
I'm looking forward to that.
Which will be on the download till we get them all worked out.
Yeah, the features will be on the download. It's hard making stuff that has different technical features to it. I mean, you would think it would be pretty easy, but it's actually way harder than you might think. And trying to make sure that not only is it manufactured where you want it manufactured, that it's manufactured the way you want it manufactured, and trusting that the people that are manufacturing it aren't just going to take off with your money, right?
Yes, because it's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a big investment. And then making sure that it works and that it's something that your customers want.
I mean, you get some weird stuff too. Like you can miss one little measurement, and all of a sudden you got a hood that you can't pull over your head, or a sleeve that's 2 inches too short, or
whatever. Yeah, and then you got 10,000 of them sitting in a warehouse somewhere.
Yeah.
It's no thanks. So we're working on that. We got the Pacific Northwest Sportsman Show is coming up soon. We've got the one in Puyallup. How do you say that?
I think that's right. That's how I'd say it.
Puyallup. And then Portland following that. We will not be exhibiting at either one, but our dealers will be there. And a lot of people have been sending messages asking if we're going to have a booth at the Portland show or the Washington show, and we will not. And the reason for that is our dealers, as I said, will be there with our stuff. And if they're there, it's kind of hard to be there and be selling our stuff too.
Well, I think being a good partner to our dealers means we don't go and sell out from under them at this show.
Yeah, and it's been really cool growing the wholesale program for this business, because there's ups, there's downs, but knowing that people can access your products in multiple different ways is great. Because like people in the Midwest, it's hard to pay the shipping to ship a premium hoodie to Michigan,
and the ability to try on, to touch the product before you buy it.
Yep.
To be able to, and especially as we break more into technical stuff.
Yep.
When you're investing in a more technical piece, the ability to touch and feel that and see what the fabric is and see how the fit is just so valuable.
Yeah, and this podcast will be out in the audio version, but also the video version on YouTube. So if you're watching the YouTube version, leave us a comment. Tell us what you think you'd like to see from us from a technical standpoint. We do not want to get into the world of bibs, waders, that type of stuff, but there's so much more that we can do, and I think there's a appetite for us doing that stuff. So we need to, we're now getting to the point where we can, thanks to you guys. And now it's time to pull the trigger on it. But as far as the shows go, we will try to be there as much as we can. But if you're coming to the Portland show and you want to come by the shop here after the show and check out what we got going on here at the retail shop, it's not that far. So cruise by, say what's up. We'll either be here or there. And if you see us cruising around the show and you're there, say hello. And if you're going to come by the shop, make sure you take a picture with Sasquatch out front.
I prefer to take a picture with his backside.
Yeah. Sasquatch got booty out there.
He's got a dump truck.
Yeah. He's like Lainey Wilson. What else we got? New stuff, show, fishing trips. I went out. AJ, could you keep it down back there, please?
Come on, AJ. Be a professional.
My bad.
This coffee is hot as hell. This time of year, we start to get all the pictures start rolling in of winter steelhead. It's that time, and then we have to decide whether or not we're actually going to share them or not. And things are different. I was just talking about this the other day. Like, when we first started this business, we built this business on sharing people's photos of their fish, because what is it that you do when you catch a fish? The first thing you do is you take a picture. Well, if you're wearing steelhead gear, it just made sense for us to share that picture. And then that became kind of a thing. People wanted us to do that in order for them to, feel they could get some validation. It was cool. It was like
people get to see your cool pictures.
Yeah.
Cool pictures are cool.
Exactly. And as algorithms change, and that the world of Instagram and Facebook changing so rapidly, that's not necessarily a viable thing anymore, which is interesting, because it's forced us to have to really change the way that we interact with our customers, because it was a great way for us to interact with customers. I've made tons of friends over the years by simply sharing a photo, and then they send a message to go, "That's awesome, thanks." And then we get to talking. Next thing you know, we're buddies,
Yeah, and it is cool to see people go out in your gear and catch fish.
Absolutely.
I mean, from our perspective, I think, or at least from mine, I can probably talk for you, but
yeah,
it's just as validating as that picture of a fish is for probably the person who caught it.
Yep.
To see somebody out in your hat or your jacket or your hoodie.
Still blows me away every time I see it.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's tougher, I think, for two reasons. It's tougher for the fact that the algorithm doesn't work the same anymore.
Yeah.
It doesn't share as much. People don't see it as much, and it's not what people want as much as they used to.
Yep.
And it's tough because there is sort of it's harder to navigate the ins and outs of what makes people mad when it comes to pictures.
Well, we know that one.
Yes, we do, man. You make one little accidental mistake.
Yeah.
You forget to look at a background, or it looks like your spot burning or whatever, and holy moly, hell is unleashed upon you for no
death threats,
no amounts of apologizing will ever make it better.
Yeah. I think my favorite message we got at one point was just simply said, the old timeless classic, eat shit and die.
That is a good one.
That was a good one.
That's a good one. The favorite one I've heard of is, if I ever met you in person, I would do the same thing you were doing to that fish and kill you. Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good one too. I would kill you for holding that fish up.
Yeah. End your human life.
Yeah.
Stupid. But it's difficult for multiple reasons. And now it's even more difficult because when people are sharing short form video or including your product in short form video, you may not be able to share that, and they don't know that. People don't understand how the different platforms work. So like, we have a business account. If you make a reel, let's say on Instagram, and it includes steelhead gear, you catch a beautiful fish, you have a beautiful release, It's great. But in the background, you've got a Blake Shelton song or AC/DC. We can't share that video because of the music and the copyright infringement things on, or I shouldn't say infringement, but the copyright laws. So there's that. Also, not everyone is it's a lot easier with cell phone cameras to take great photos than it is to take great videos. And not everyone's video is shareable, we'll say.
Well, and you know, maybe some unpleasant language, maybe weeding through that's a whole
it's a full-time job.
Yeah.
And there are people who have sent nasty messages. You haven't shared my video, and it's like, dude, you're cursing up a storm. You got a cigarette hanging out your mouth, and
yeah,
you
just swung the fish around by its tail 3 times.
Yeah, like I can't. Sorry, but there's the laws that you must follow, but then there's also what is in good taste. Yes. And that's debatable to a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people see no problem with certain things, and I think, as a business, you kind of have to toe the line, you have to play by the rules. If it's, there's the legal, moral aspect you have to weigh. It's a lot more difficult than you might think. It's not just like repost. For example, if we repost somebody holding a fish that it's not obvious that it's a Great Lakes region, right? And it's 6 inches out of the water, like, you better call that out.
Yeah. Because
people will just assume that it's not. And, then you get all the mess. Where is this? And, it's so much more difficult than if we were like a hot rod brand. You know what I mean? Like, we just made cool shirts for people who like hot rods. There's nothing. What are you going to do?
Yeah. Well, what I find interesting is I've been cruising the old interwebs for other things, just looking, and I used to think it was really a steelhead fishing thing, in particular, steelhead and salmon fishing thing. But really, I don't even think it is so much. I see just as much sort of controversial or sport arguing, if you will, with guys. I came across one the other day about those big fish, the big paddle on their nose. And it's legal in some places to catch them, and it's not in other places. And I think they snag them. And regardless of how you feel about it, like, everybody's got their opinions. Somebody would post a picture of a legal fish that they had legally caught and legally retained, as per the rules, and then the avalanche of hate comes in.
Oh yeah.
And you think, man, like,
same. You see that with bow fishing.
No, same thing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Where you go, wow, that person has not broken a law.
Nope.
But many people find what they did distasteful and are very vocal about it. And, I think
free speech, I get it.
Yeah.
But damn.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I think it's very common. It seems to be very common in fishing.
And I'm sure that, I use the example of the hot rod world. I think I'm sure it doesn't matter what it is, right? Yeah. Like, AJ, if you got some guy that's like, I'm using this camera to, take this video or whatever, and he doesn't have the settings correct. I'm sure there's camera nerds that jump in and want to correct him and call him a dummy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's anything that people get nerdy about. Coffee.
Yeah. Oh,
anything.
How dare you filter that coffee instead of a pour over?
Right.
Sir.
Yeah. Yep.
I'll slap your mom.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely been a learning process for me over the years. I mean, there's things that I just, it's also, I think it's regional, right? Because, like, I was talking with this guy over in the Great Lakes region the other day about some business stuff, and he's a fly fisherman over there. And I was like, you guys don't have the same sort of divide between the gear and fly community over there that we have on the West Coast. And caveat to that, I do feel like over the years that divide has gotten a little less. Still there, but I don't feel like it's as gnarly as it once was. That's just my own personal opinion. However, over there, they don't have it at all. Like, he's like, the only thing that you might get is where somebody thinks that a fly fisherman is like elitist because, you know, $1,500 rods and stuff like that, right? But like, other than that, they don't have that same, for a multitude of reasons that we don't need to get into, but it's just an example of regional divides. I'll give you another example. We can hardly sell a flex fit hat over here to save our lives, but over on the East Coast and in the Great Lakes, people love the flex fit hat.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's just a regional taste thing. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm lucky enough, even within the fly community, honestly, I've fly fished plenty in my life, and you know, the differences between even sort of the West Coast and the East Coast, just in the community there, is often very different. Yeah. You know, what's acceptable for one group is not acceptable to another. Yeah. Or how people like to fish, or, you know, it's interesting. I think part of it is regionally you grow up with a different appreciation of a resource depending on where that resource came from. You know, when it comes to steelhead fishing, you know, you're talking about fish that are native to this place. Mm-hmm. You know, and all that, versus fish in the Great Lakes that were imported there to provide a fishery. And so I think from the root of that comes a different feeling or appreciation for what that resource means. Yeah, but does that necessarily make it right or wrong? No, right? Not at all. Yeah. I just mean it I think it does affect the way people think about that resource because it comes from a different place, you know, and I think that's kind of, you know, truthfully, it's any resource, right? Oh yeah. I mean, dude, people will fight over anything. I wish that more people online, especially, dude, you and I grew up, we date ourselves here, but we grew up in a time when there wasn't internet at all. When I graduated high school, our school had just gotten a computer lab in 1998. Right? Were you even born?
I was 1997.
Oh,
one year old.
So you were one. Yeah.
Well, I graduated in 95, so you weren't even alive.
Yeah. So we had just gotten a computer lab back when, you know, you look up like Abe Lincoln and it would just, like, a picture of him would go boom.
The screechy noise.
Exactly. Yeah. You've got mail. And you know, in that era, there was so much less of this like bickering stuff, and it forced people to face have a conversation about things. And if you didn't like something, you had to go there, and you had to stand in front of the person and say what you wanted to say, right? And it just, now that you don't have to do that across the board. I mean, I got a little cold this week, and I worked the entire week from home on Slack and video calls and stuff, which is amazing. However, I could say whatever I wanted to you or AJ or whatever, and if I was mad, I could be like, you're a jerk, and just close my laptop, right? You're not in front of me, right? So I wonder, you know, in the world of the internet, if people would try to assume positive intent before they assume negative intent, I think our interactions online would, regardless of what the topic is, whether it's fishing, coffee, hot rods, cameras, doesn't matter what it is, we would have, but specifically what we're talking about is fishing here, we would have just a far greater positive interactions online. But that's not going to happen. Why do you think people love to fight? They love to bicker.
That's true, but I do think, you know, when you know somebody, you and I don't see eye to eye on a lot of stuff. Whether
we disagree all the time.
I'll disagree all the time. Yep. But because I know you, and I know your family, and I know who you are,
Yep.
It's easy for me to...
You love Hanson. I don't like Hanson. I think Mbop is a terrible song.
Mbop all day. That's my jam. That's the only... But that being said, it makes it easy to assume positive intent.
Correct.
Because when you know somebody,
yes,
you can very easily say, well, I know Alex. I know how he feels about all these things. And that one thing we don't disagree, or we don't agree on, we may disagree deeply. However, I know who you are and I know where you're coming from.
Yeah. If we're getting philosophical here, which it sounds like we are, that
waxing poetic.
Correct. I think in general, if you're listening to this podcast and you can take one thing away from it that has specifically to do with what it is that we do on a daily basis, if you're interacting with somebody and you don't like online and you don't like what they've done or said, pause for a minute. Step away for 1 minute, turn around, come back to the situation and ask yourself, would you say what you're about to say anyway? And would you say what you're about to say online to this person's face? And there's a lot of people who are like, yeah, I'll say it to your face. Tough guy. Would you? Because this store's been open for 3 months and we were in our last location for 5 years. And not one person ever came to the front door and said what they said online to my face. Or your face.
Nobody has ever
face.
Nobody has ever threatened to kill me in person.
Nope.
Not one time.
And I'm not asking you to. But what I'm saying is, ask yourself, would you actually say that to that person's face? And would you want somebody to say that to you if you made a mistake or were misinterpreted in some way? Because guess what? Human beings make mistakes all the time. And we especially can be misinterpreted or make mistakes when we're online. And as a business that shares content from user-generated content, we do the best we can. Sometimes we make mistakes, and sometimes people make mistakes. Sometimes people share a video where they're like 2 feet on the line of like an area that is sort of a gray area. Can you fish there, right? Or like, they might post something and they don't realize they're in an area that's like out of season. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, people make mistakes. Yes, they should do their homework. Yes, they should make sure that it's not, all of those things. But mistakes will get made. Just have a little grace with each other, right?
Fair enough. I think that's good. It's a good lesson of the day.
Yeah, that's my Mr. Rogers moment.
Mr. Rogers rocks.
Mr. Rogers was badass. Did you ever hear the rumor that Mr. Rogers was an Army Ranger sniper?
Navy SEAL and all that. Yeah. It's not true.
Yeah, it's not true.
That's too bad, though.
Because
it would have been better if he was.
It would be. If Mr. Rogers actually was an Army Ranger sniper, that'd be trippy. But I did find out that Bob Ross was 20 years in the Navy. He was like a drill sergeant.
I was just going to say that, man. He probably didn't have happy accidents when he was a drill sergeant.
No. In fact, he said that he, when he got out of the Navy, one of the reasons he started painting and doing that show and all that stuff is because it allowed him to completely change who he was. He didn't like who he was in the Navy. And so he did a complete 180 and went from like barking at people and telling them that they're terrible and they need to get up and do more burpees. He went from that to happy clouds and happy trees and
happy accidents. I think there's a Bob Ross resurgence. My 13-year-old loves Bob Ross.
My 7-year-old loves Bob Ross.
There's an entire Bob Ross channel.
We watched it last night.
Bob Ross channel. You watch Bob Ross 24 hours a day.
Have you seen the documentary on Bob Ross?
No.
I think it's on Netflix. It's actually really interesting.
It good?
It's really good and really sad at the same time. I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but
I did see Gronk did a Bob Ross impersonation in a recent NFL commercial.
Nice.
Yeah, where he was like painting the NFL playoffs or something like that. I don't know. It was fun. All right, we good? We wrapping it up?
Yep, 24.
Feels about right.
All right.
Enjoy everybody their lesson for life.
Yeah, and maybe I'm sure we've given people ammo to
tell us they hate us,
throw poop at us, and that's fine.
Somebody will threaten to murder you for this.
Someone will threaten my life because of this podcast. You want to start your own business? Be prepared to get your life threatened for just talking and existing.
Enjoy.
Enjoy.